Let's take a look at the sky object here in Cinema 4D. Now, it's not technically a light, but you'll use it at the same time as you're using lights in a lot of situations. So this command creates a sky object. In contrast to the floor object, the sky is an infinitely large sphere whose center is in the origin of the world coordinate system. Okay, so let's create a quick little scene. We're going to grab a floor object. We'll put a cube in there. Let's go ahead and pull that cube up. Select it, maybe in the front view, and just pull that up so that it's sitting on the floor. Maybe like that. We'll go back into our perspective view by middle mouse clicking. Do a quick render. You can see what we have there. Okay, so let's create a couple materials. Let's create a material for the floor. We'll double click here in the material editor. Double click the material. We'll come over here. Let's make something kind of a dark material. And let's put a little reflection on that. Something like that. Also, come over here, create another material, double click it. Let's go to the color channel, go down, go to surfaces, and put a checkerboard on there. I'm going to click into the checkerboard and set that to 3 by 3. Now I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that on the cube, and we'll take the reflective material and we'll put that on the floor. Now let's go ahead and just get this framed up, do a quick render. And that's what we have going on so far. Let's go ahead and grab a sphere, put that in the scene, and we'll pull that over. And maybe go over here and just make sure that we have that sort of sitting on the floor as well. I think that's going to work. I'm going to go ahead and come over to my content browser and go into presets, which is right here. I go down to visualize, and I'm going to grab a couple materials. So I'll go into the materials. I think I'm going to grab a metal material and an HDRI. So let me grab the metal first. Let's just go through here. Maybe something like, we'll grab this stainless steel, or something like this. I'll double click that. I'll go back up one and I'll go to my HDRI. And I'm going to grab this HDRI material here. And we'll go back to the object tab. I'm going to put my metal material on my sphere. Let's take a render there. Okay. Now let's go ahead and drop a sky object in the scene and do another render. So pretty much everything looks the same. Let's go ahead and take our HDRI and put that on the sky. And if we look around here, you can see what we have is that we have this large sphere that encompasses the scene completely. And the HDRI is on that. So what's going to happen is it's going to use this HDRI image to reflect into the scene. So if we just do a quick render now, you can see we have our HDRI image and it is completely reflecting off of our objects and off of our floor. Let's get this where you can see it a little bit better. Okay. So if we come to the floor and we take our reflection down, maybe to 4% and render, you can see we're getting less of the reflection of the HDRI image. Now, obviously, we don't want this to show up in our scene, this HDRI image that you can see here in the background. So what we would normally do is we'd come over here and we'd right-click, go to Cinema 4D Tags, and go to the Compositing tag. And then we would click on Scene by Camera. We would uncheck that. So now we render. We still get our reflections from the HDRI image. You just can't see it in the background. Now, something else that you probably are not going to want is it to be that reflective. So if we double click the HDRI image, we can maybe set the blurriness to 5%. And let's see what that looks like. Go ahead and double click that again. Over here, we can see it in here as well. Right there. The luminance, this is where we need to change our blur. So let's change that to 3 and maybe 4. Let's render that again. And you can see we're starting to get blur here, which actually makes this a little more realistic. Now, normally you're probably not going to want to have a floor like this that is reflective, or at least this much reflective, because it's basically a flat surface, so it's going to reflect everything around it. But you could even kick this up more, maybe 6 and 4. You just got to play around with these until it starts blurring this out so that you can't really see all this. But maybe you want this, you know, it's up to you. It's an artistic decision. But you're starting to get reflections and things in your objects that start to look a little more realistic. And you do that with the sky object and an HDRI. Now, another way to handle this situation, and probably a better way, is just to come over here to the tag and go to exclusions and drop the floor in there. Now when we render, you don't see it at all. All we're seeing in the reflection of the floor are the two objects that we have in the scene. So that sort of takes this out of the equation completely, but we still have our reflective surfaces that are reflecting the sky in the HDRI image. Okay, so that's the basics of using the sky object here in Cinema 4D.